أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير آمين يا رب العالمين.
Let us revise what we studied in the previous lecture. Previously, we studied creating emphasis in Jumla Ismiya. We studied that emphasis is created in Jumla Ismiya using two words or two harf. These are inna and lam ta'kid or the lam of emphasis. Some key points to note. First of all, both inna and lam ta'kid or the lam of emphasis create equal emphasis in Jumla Ismiya. Secondly, inna is used more frequently in the Holy Quran. And finally, inna will come at the start of Jumla Ismiya and it will change the status or i'rab of Mubtada. Looking at some examples, Zaidun Salihun has no emphasis. La Zaidun Salihun has emphasis because of the presence of lam ta'kid or the lam of emphasis. And lam ta'kid is not making any changes in the i'rab of mubtada or khabar. Next we added inna to Zaidun Salihun and we got inna Zaidan Salihun. Inna adds emphasis to Jumla Ismiya and it changes the status of mubtada from marfu to mansub. In this case, Zaidan is inna's ism or the ism of inna and Salihun will be called inna's khabar or the khabar of inna. To double the emphasis, we added inna and lam ta'kid to Zaidun Salihun and we got inna Zaidan la Salihun. Please note, inna is coming at the beginning of Jumla Ismiya and lam ta'kid is being added at a later point. To add more than double emphasis, we added Wallahi. We are swearing by Allah that indeed Zaid is pious. Wallahi inna Zaidan la salihun. And the final source of emphasis comes from the one who is addressing, and that is hidden emphasis. In this lecture, we will understand an alternate way of creating emphasis in Jumla Ismiya. This alternate way is different from the concepts that we have studied so far. Let us try to understand the concept of creating emphasis in Jumla Ismiya using an alternative approach. Let us look at this example. If a person wants to emphasize how pious Zaid is, instead of saying Zaid is pious, that person might add more emphasis by saying Zaid is the pious one. Or in Urdu, that person might say Zaid hi nek hai, rather than simply stating Zaid nek hai. So if a person wants to emphasize Zaid's piety, they might say Zaid is the pious one or Zaid hi nek hai. Please note that this does not literally mean that there are no other pious people. It is simply an expression through which a person can emphasize Zaid's quality of being pious. According to this person, Zaid is the pious one. This person considers Zaid to have all the attributes of being pious. Now let us look at the next example. If a person wants to emphasize how good of a doctor Zaid is, instead of saying Zaid is a doctor, that person might emphasize and say Zaid is the doctor. Or in Urdu, that person might say Zaid hi doctor hai, rather than saying Zaid doctor hai. So if this person wants to emphasize Zaid's ability as a doctor, they might say Zaid is the doctor or Zaid hi doctor hai. Please note again that this does not literally mean that there are no other doctors. It is an expression through which a person can emphasize Zaid's ability as a doctor. According to this person, Zaid is the doctor. This person considers Zaid to have all the attributes of being a capable doctor. Please note that in Arabic, emphasis in Jumla Ismiya can be created on a similar pattern. Let us study this in further detail. We have the example of Zaidun Salihun. We know that this is a Jumla Ismiya and we know that Zaidun Salihun has no emphasis. Zaidun Salihun means Zaid is pious. We added the maximum emphasis to Zaidun Salihun and we got the result of Wallahi inna Zaidan la Salihun. I swear by Allah, indeed Zaid is pious. As we saw in the previous slide, there is an alternate way of adding emphasis to Zaidun Salihun or to Zaid is pious. And this alternate way to emphasize will be to say something on the lines of Zaid is the pious one, or in Urdu we might say Zaid hi नेक है. In order to add this emphasis to Zaidun Salihun using the alternative way, that involves two steps. Let us study these steps in further detail. Let us now study adding emphasis to Jumla Ismiya using the two steps. We have Zaidun Salihun. Zaid is pious. This Jumla has no emphasis. Zaidun is Mubtada and Salihun is Khabar. Our first step will involve adding a personal pronoun between Mubtada and Khabar. So we will take Zaidun, which is Mubtada, and we will take Salihun, which is Khabar, and we will add a personal pronoun between the Mubtada and Khabar. This personal pronoun will have two requirements. This personal pronoun will be marfu and this personal pronoun will match Mubtada. For a personal pronoun to be marfu, we will need to revise our chart of marfu personal pronouns. These were as follows. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. Ana, nahnu. So if we need to pick a personal pronoun that is marfu and we need to introduce it between the mubtada and khabar, that marfu personal pronoun will come from the marfu personal pronouns chart. Our second requirement is that this personal pronoun should match the mubtada. Zaidun is singular and masculine. So we will look for a personal pronoun that is singular and masculine, and that is the personal pronoun huwa. So we will introduce huwa between Zaidun and Salihun as part of our first step, and we will get Zaidun huwa Salihun. After this, we will move to step 2, which involves making the khabar definite or making the khabar marifa. In Zaidun Salihun, the khabar is Salihun, which is nakra or indefinite. So, as part of our step 2, we will take Zaidun huwa Salihun and make Salihun marifa or definite, and we will get Zaidun huwa Salihu. We added al to Salihun, and now we have Zaidun huwa Salihu. We will not have tanween here because of the presence of al. So we took Zaidun Salihun, which can be translated as Zaid is pious, or in Urdu, Zaid नेक है, and we converted it using our two steps into Zaidun huwa swalihu, which can possibly be translated into Zaid is the pious one, or Zaid he नेक है. So from Zaid is pious, we got Zaid is the pious one, and Zaid नेक है became Zaid he नेक है. So without emphasis, we had Zaidun salihun. With emphasis, we have Zaidun huwa salihu. Zaid is pious. Zaid is the pious one. Zaid नेक है. Zaid he नेक है. Please note that according to the person saying Zaidun huwa salihu, Zaid has all the attributes of being a pious person. This does not imply that there are no other pious people. Now let us look at the feminine example. Now we will study the feminine example. We have Zainabu Salihatun. Zainab is pious. Zainabu is Mubtada. Salihatun is Khabar. If we want to add emphasis to Zainabu Salihatun using our two steps, our first step will include introducing a personal pronoun between Mubtada and Khabar. This personal pronoun needs to be marfu and it needs to match the Mubtada. Looking again at our chart of marfu personal pronouns, we have huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. We need to pick the personal pronoun which is marfu and it matches mubtada. Mubtada is Zainabu. Zainabu is singular and feminine. So we need to pick the personal pronoun which is singular and feminine, that is hiya. So we will introduce hiya between Zainabu and Salihatun and we will get Zainabu hiya Salihatun. We will then move to step 2, which will include making the khabar definite or the khabar marifa. The khabar is Salihatun and we will add al to Salihatun to make it as-salihatu. So we will get the final result of Zainabu hiya salihatu. Salihatun has al added to it and we no longer have the tanween at the end of as-salihatu. So we took Zainabu Salihatun, which can be translated as Zainab is pious or Zainab नेक है. And we added our two steps to get the result with emphasis, which is Zainabu hiya salihatu. Zainabu hiya salihatu can potentially be translated as Zainab is the pious one or Zainab ही नेक है. Zainabu Salihatun became Zainabu hiya salihatu. If we look at our table again, without emphasis we had Zainabu Salihatun. With emphasis we have Zainabu hiya salihatu. Zainab is pious. Zainab is the pious one. Zainab नेक है. Zainab ही नेक है. Please again note that according to the person saying Zainabu hiya salihatu, Zainab has all the attributes of being a pious person. This again does not imply that there are no other pious people. Now we will see if we can add even more emphasis to Zaidun huwa salihu. Zaidun salihun means Zaid is pious or Zaid नेक है. We took our two steps and we converted Zaidun salihun into Zaidun huwa salihu. Zaid is the pious one, or Zaid ही नेक है. Let us see if we can add more emphasis to Zaidun huwa swalihu. And one way to do that is to add inna. We bring back inna and we can add it to Zaidun waswalihu, and we will get the result of inna Zaidan waswalihu. Because of inna, Zaidun becomes Zaidan. Because we studied that inna will change the status of mubtada from marfu to mansub. Inna Zaidan huwa swalihu. Indeed, Zaid is the pious one. Or in Urdu we can say yaqinan Zaid ही नेक है. To Zaidun huwa swalihu, we added inna and we got the result of inna Zaidan huwa swalihu. We can add further emphasis to inna Zaidan huwa swalihu by adding lam ta'kid or the lam of emphasis. And we will get inna Zaidan lahu was-swalihu. Again, this will be challenging to translate in English or Urdu, but a possible translation will be, indeed, Zaid is the pious one. We can add even further emphasis by bringing wallahi at the beginning, and we will have wallahi inna Zaidan lahu was-swalihu. Let us look at the following example. Al-hayatud dunya hayawanun. In this example, al-hayatud dunya is mubtada and it is a descriptive phrase. Hayawanun is khabar. If we pay attention to al-hayatud dunya, al-hayatu is definite, singular, feminine because of the presence of round ta at the end, and it is marfu. Ad-dunya is definite, singular, feminine, and it is also marfu. Please note that words that have alif at their end, such as the case in ad-dunya, such words are written the same way in marfu, mansub, and majroor forms. Al-hayatud dunya can be translated as worldly life. Hayawanun can be translated as life, and the overall translation can be worldly life is life. We can add emphasis to al-hayatud dunya hayawanun, and we will get the result of al-hayatud dunya hiyal hayawanu. Please note that we are introducing a personal pronoun, that is marfu, in between mubtada and khabar. This personal pronoun is matching the mubtada, as hiya is also singular and feminine, and the khabar is now definite in capacity. The khabar is marifa. So a possible translation of al-hayatud dunya hiyal hayawanu can be worldly life is the real life. We can add even more emphasis to this by adding inna, and we will get the result of innal hayatad dunya hiyal hayawanu. Please note that because of inna, al hayatu becomes al hayata. Innal hayatad dunya hiyal hayawanu can be translated as, indeed, worldly life is the real life. Please note that such statements were made by the disbelievers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to such claims in the Holy Quran in Surah number 29, ayah number 64. Let us look at this ayah in more detail. Now we will look at Surah number 29, Ayah number 64. And we will focus on the following section of the ayah. Overall, the ayah can be translated as, and this life of the world is only an amusement and a play. Verily, the home of the hereafter, that is the life indeed, that is, the eternal life that will never end, if they but knew. If we focus on this section of the ayah, at the beginning we see inna. Inna is creating emphasis in this jumla. وَإِنَ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ. Inna is creating emphasis and it is followed by ad-dar al-akhirata. Ad-dar al-akhirata is mubtada. It is mansoob because of the presence of inna. In the later part of the sentence, we also see the use of lam-e-ta'keed or the lam of emphasis. So this lam is adding further emphasis to the jumla. وَإِنَ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ. Al-Hayawanu is the khabar and it is definite in capacity for a reason. We see the personal pronoun hiya that is being used between mubtada and khabar. This personal pronoun matches the mubtada in terms of number and gender, and furthermore it is followed by the khabar which is definite in capacity. So this tells us that there is a third type of emphasis that is also being added to this jumla. The first emphasis is coming from inna, the second emphasis is coming from lam-e-ta'keed, and the third emphasis is the type of emphasis that we studied in this lecture. Taken together, this part of the ayah can be translated as, verily, the home of the hereafter, that is the life indeed. In summary, if we are reading the text of the Holy Quran and we come across a Jumla Ismiya where we have Mubtada and Khabar, and in between the Mubtada and Khabar, we see a Marfu personal pronoun which matches the Mubtada in terms of number and gender, and the Khabar also happens to be definite or Marifa. This combination should alert us to the possibility that some form of emphasis might be created in that particular Jumla Ismiya.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.